The Plantation of Ulster was a pivotal event in the history of Ireland, marking the beginning of significant English and Scottish settlement in the region. Orchestrated by the English crown and facilitated by London livery companies and English courtiers, the plantation had far-reaching consequences not only for Ireland but also for the trajectory of European colonialism and the role of England in shaping the modern world. The primary motivations behind the Plantation of Ulster were political, economic, and religious. Following the 9 Years' War, which ended in 1603, a conflict between Gaelic Irish chieftains and the English crown, the English sought to consolidate their control over Ireland. The defeat of the Irish chieftains, led by Hugh O'Neill, Earl of Tyrone, and the flight of the Earls in 1607 left vast tracts of land in Ulster available for redistribution. King James I saw this as an opportunity to secure English rule and prevent further rebellion by replacing the native Irish population with loyal English and Scottish settlers. Economically, the plantation aimed to exploit the fertile lands of Ulster for agricultural production and stimulate trade and industry. The involvement of London livery companies, who were granted large estates in return for financing the plantation, reflected the Crown's interest in developing a profitable colonial economy. These companies, representing various trades and crafts in London, had the resources and organizational capacity to establish new settlements and infrastructure. Religiously, the plantation was also a means to promote Protestantism in predominantly Catholic Ireland. The settlers were mainly Protestant, and their presence was intended to create a loyal Protestant base that would support the Crown and counterbalance the Catholic majority. The settlers faced numerous challenges in establishing themselves in Ulster. One of the primary difficulties was the resistance from the indigenous Irish population. Despite the military defeat of their leaders, many Irish remained hostile to the settlers, leading to sporadic violence and raids. The settlers had to construct fortifications and maintain a constant state of alert to protect themselves and their properties. Another significant challenge was the harsh and unfamiliar environment. Many of the settlers came from urban backgrounds and were unaccustomed to the rural and often rugged terrain of Ulster. They had to clear forests, drain bogs, and establish farms from scratch, a labor-intensive and arduous process. Additionally, the climate and soil conditions differed from those in England and Scotland, requiring adaptation of agricultural practices. Logistical issues also posed challenges. The initial wave of settlers was often poorly supplied and equipped, leading to shortages of food, tools, and building materials. The distance from England meant that resupply was slow and unreliable, exacerbating the difficulties faced by the settlers. The impact of the plantation on the indigenous Irish population was profound and often devastating. The redistribution of land meant that many Irish were dispossessed of their ancestral lands and displaced from their homes. This displacement led to significant social and economic disruption, as the traditional Gaelic way of life was undermined. Many of the displaced Irish were forced into marginal lands or became tenants under the new landlords, leading to increased poverty and hardship. Culturally, the plantation aimed to suppress Gaelic customs and language, promoting English laws, customs, and language instead. This cultural imposition was part of a broader strategy of Anglicisation, intended to integrate Ireland more fully into the English realm. However, it also led to a deepening of cultural and religious divisions, as the Protestant settlers and Catholic natives maintained distinct identities. The introduction of a Protestant settler population also exacerbated religious tensions. The settlers brought with them their religious institutions and practices, which were often at odds with the Catholic traditions of the indigenous population. This religious divide contributed to long-term sectarian conflict, which persisted for centuries and continues to influence Northern Ireland today. The Plantation of Ulster had significant implications for the development of European colonialism. It served as a model for later English colonial ventures in the Americas and elsewhere. The principles of plantation, dispossession of native populations, settlement by loyal subjects, economic exploitation, and cultural imposition were replicated in various forms throughout the British Empire. The involvement of London livery companies in the plantation also foreshadowed the later role of joint stock companies in colonial expansion. These companies, such as the East India Company and the Virginia Company, played crucial roles in financing and organizing colonial enterprises, blending private capital with state support to further imperial ambitions. The plantation also contributed to the development of colonial administrative practices. The need to manage large numbers of settlers and maintain control over hostile populations led to innovations in governance and military organization, which were later applied in other colonial contexts. The experience gained in Ulster helped shape English approaches to colonial rule, influencing policies of land tenure, settlement, and cultural assimilation. The Plantation of Ulster and similar colonial endeavours were instrumental in shaping the modern world. By establishing a network of colonies, England expanded its economic and political influence globally. The wealth generated from these colonies fueled the growth of the British economy, supporting industrialisation and contributing to England's emergence as a global power. Culturally, the spread of English language and customs had a lasting impact on the world. The plantation's Anglicisation efforts in Ulster were part of a broader trend of cultural dissemination that accompanied English colonialism. This cultural influence is evident today in the widespread use of the English language and the global reach of British cultural practices. Politically, the experiences and practices developed during the Plantation of Ulster contributed to the evolution of modern statecraft and imperial governance. The administrative and military strategies employed in Ulster were refined and adapted in other colonies, helping to create a model of colonial rule that influenced imperial powers beyond England. The Plantation of Ulster by English courtiers and London livery companies was a transformative event with lasting repercussions. It reshaped the social, economic, and cultural landscape of Ulster, creating a legacy of division and conflict that endures to this day. Beyond Ireland, the plantation influenced the development of European colonialism, providing a blueprint for later colonial ventures and contributing to England's role in shaping the modern world. Through the settlement of Ulster, the English crown laid the groundwork for an empire that would span the globe, leaving an indelible mark on history.